Hi, this is Eric Martin with Board Game Geek. I'm here today looking at Garden of Minions by designer Kuro, published through his own Manifest Destiny company in Japanese and English, that first appeared at Tokyo Game Market in May 2016. This is a single-player game, plays in about 20 to 30 minutes for ages 10 and up, and in the game you are representing dryads, forest spirits. And you are trying to live in a certain area, grow, get stronger, and eventually establish trees. But the only way to do that is by defeating evil minions and the bosses that will try to thwart your growth. And if you create 6 trees, you win. But that's not likely to happen. How does this game work? Here are the components in Garden of Minions. You have 18 dryad dice that are yours to use, hopefully in beneficial ways. You have 12 evil minion dice. You have a 5x5 playing area that represents your forest. You have a score track over here, which matters only if you win. If you lose, your score is 0. So don't get too haughty there, hoping for good things. You have a set of 8 bosses in Japanese, which I'll put aside, and 8 in English, which I will use. You have a turn order overview to help you out during play. You also have a tree overview that tells you what the 5 different trees in the game do, assuming you put trees on the board, which you better if you want to win. You flip these bosses face down and shuffle them. The rules say you start with 0 to 3 bosses in play. Start with 0 bosses. You really do not want bosses at the beginning when you don't know what you're doing, or possibly even if you do. To set up, you roll 3 evil minion dice and place them somewhere on the board, your choice. Then you start taking turns. And on a turn, you are going to roll one of your dice and place it somewhere on the board. That was a turn. I roll a 5, I can place that as well. Or, instead of placing a die, as long as it's not a 1, you can split it into 2 dice. So I could split this 5 into a 3 and a 2. And then I could choose to place these on the board like so. Split dice must be placed adjacent to one another. I roll another die. I get a 6. Well, what can I do here? I can split this into 3 and 3. And I can now make a union of dice that is 3 or larger. And when that happens, these dice level up. My tree has gotten strength from other trees of the same size, and they combine together. I added these 2 dice at the same time so I can choose either of them to level up. Let's say this one goes to a 4. These other dice are removed and put back into my pool. Now these minion dice here, this one was weaker than the 3s I removed, so it's put back in the supply. This one is exactly the same, so this die is now sealed and removed from play into the graveyard, which is not necessarily good, because if I need to place evil minions on the board and I cannot, I lose. If an evil minion were higher, if the 6 were here, for example, then I would damage it through my dryad action, punching that tree and making it a little smaller. After you level up, you add another evil minion to the board, and you choose where you want it to go. So you keep taking turns in this manner. I'm going to do this. Got a 2. And we'll see if I can nicely demonstrate what we're going to do here. A 5, I'll make it a 2 and a 3. And put a 4 there. And I get another 4. Well, let's turn this into 2 2s. And I'll place these 2s adjacent to one another. And now I've got this group here. These 2 are the most recently placed, so I'll make this one level up. These go away. This 1 goes away. I've got 3 3s. This is the most recent one placed, so this levels up. These 2 go away. I damage this one. And these do not level up because they're not connected. Oh, it wasn't perfect. If you chain leveling up, then you get points. So I had 2 leveling ups at the same time, so I get 4 points. If you had 3, you get 9, and 4, you get 16, and so on. Each time after you level up, you roll a die. I gotta put out this 6 now. Let's put that out. Now your goal eventually is to have 3 6s, and you level those up. And there's nothing higher than a 6 on a die. What happens? Well, whatever 6 you placed most recently becomes a tree. and you choose one of the trees over here. They have 5 different special powers. You put it on the board, and you choose whatever you want based on the power you think you will need later in the game. Okay, so this comes on the board, and the tree is great. However, each time that you get a tree, you add a boss to play. And here we've got the Chaotic Gospeler, and as soon as we have this, we no longer score points for chaining things together. What are other things we can do? Other bosses. Roll another white die at the start of a turn. Hey, you get to put more forces on the board. That's good, right? Oh, except you cannot split that die. You have to put down whatever you roll and just hope for the best. And again, if you run out of dice to place on the board, you lose the game. So you have to keep churning those dice around, converting them into trees, which are good because they give you a special power. However, that locks down a space that can never be used for the rest of the game. Even when you use this special power, which in this case life, you get to turn over a die to the face, a white die to the face that you want. Good. However, you flip it over and that space is still out of play. If you get roots down, roots bombs everything around it. The roots go out and all the dice surrounding it when you use it are put back into the supply. If you have thorn, then that lowers the value of each evil die by 2 to a minimum of 1. The blue lets you rearrange dice in a row. The yellow gives you bonus points, assuming you win. Good luck with that. The bosses stick around until you meet some condition that's on them. So with this one, if you seal a 6 enemy, and again, you seal only if I manage to make a union of 6s while it's next to a 6. This will be sealed and sent to the graveyard. And if that happens, this boss is removed and I will score 10 points, assuming I actually win the game. This one is a union of 5 or more minions level up at the same time. So I might have to have 4 and 4s out like this, and then be able to place a 4 in there. Or maybe I split a 6 to a 4 and a 2 and get those 5 together, and they'll all level up at the same time. And then this guy goes away. You have at most 3 bosses at a time, and seriously, 1 or 2 is all you need in order to set you on a spiraling path towards doom. If, however, you do get 6 trees on the board, you win the game, and you score points equal to what you've scored during the game for chaining, points from bosses you defeated, and any of these yellow trees that you've put on the board. And there's an overview of Garden of Minions, which I played 4 times now on a press copy from Japan Brand, which is bringing the game to Spiel 2016 in October. And the back of the box mentions that this combines a computer game-like playstyle with an analog game board. And if you have played 3s, then you will be very familiar with the playstyle of Garden of Minions. Not that Garden of Minions is a ripoff of 3s. This is not some 2048 bastardization of a design where you take the clever thing, make a ripoff design, don't add anything to it, and then just let it out for free, right? It is not that. But the game playing, the game style, what you have to do is similar. Right? In 3s, you're constantly trying to combine things together, move things around and shift and keep growing higher and higher and higher. That's a puzzle because, of course, you keep going until you die. Right? Those are puzzles. You're either going to have a fixed solution, some specific way to solve something, or you go until you die. Okay. So Garden of Minions works a little differently, but it feels the same because you are trying to combine the dice together. You're placing them down. You're splitting them. The constant decision of, do I split? Is this a good idea? Is this going to benefit me in any way? Because those evil dice keep coming on the board every time you level something up. And if you're not taking dice off the board when you're leveling up, that just means everything's getting more crowded. Sometimes you have to do that. You get 6s and 5s on those evil minions. It's hard to remove them from the board. So often you have to punch them down a bit in order to give yourself more opportunities to take them out. But ideally, you're taking other ones out at the same time. But that means you're clustering them all together, which means it's harder to get those good dice in there in order to make the combinations to level up to do the things you need. It's all this stuff piling up together. I've played 4 times. As I mentioned, I've won only once. 2 games, I think I got 4 trees, and then everything just blows up in your face. Sort of escalating along. Things are looking good. I'm stacking up stuff nicely. Oh, and then this boss comes out from when I do get a tree and suddenly I'm dropping 2 dice on a board, I can't split, I'm adding extra minions. It all just, it goes south quickly, as often happens in solitary games along these lines. It's an interesting challenge. I don't even know if I'm playing well or not. So I won once. Why? Have I learned something? It was the fourth game I played, so maybe I have learned something as I'm doing this, but I still don't get a good idea of what's good to do. All right? It's interesting. And that's starting with no bosses in play for all 4 of those games, because I haven't won once. Why am I going to make it harder than I need to be right now? Now, I have to see if I can actually add that in. See if I can top my score of 50 for Garden of Minions, and maybe you can see if you top me too. Good luck.